everyone, this is Nikachu and I am here with my brother and we are going to check out what deck I am probably taking to the Pro Tour. Because there aren't a lot of Merfolk in Standard right now, but there are plenty of Merfolk in Spirit, and that's what we got here today. We're going to thank our sponsor, themanabase.com. If you want to look at some modern content, what's going on in modern, go check out Modern Musings by Michael Shapiro on themanabase.com. And we have new patrons! Lots of new patrons supporting me on Patreon. Absolutely love you guys. The wave is an enormous tidal wave. It's going to be a tsunami one day. It's absolutely beautiful. I would like to so much thanks Stephen Pedersen, Aaron Scott, Peter Pan, and Graham Astor for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much. Blue-white spirits, slowly improving, slowly getting better. Now, if you guys follow me on Twitter and on my Facebook page, you would have known that I am obliterating like friendly leagues with this thing, but unfortunately the Pro Tour is not going to be a friendly league. So friendly leagues and below, one-on-ones and stuff like that, I'm like 90%. I'm actually just killing everyone that I play. Doing very, very successfully there. Competitive leagues, not so much. I've played only like 3 so far, and I'm going to jam in a lot more before the Pro Tour, but I'm like, I went like 3-2, 3-2, 2-3, so pretty close to 50-50. Not really where I want to be, but there's still a lot of room to improve the deck. So let me quickly show you what I'm doing. We've got a split between 8 islands and 8 plains. I have a good mix of blue and white creatures and spells in this deck. We got 4 Port Town. Port Town is a fantastic card. It's a dual land that I can comfortably get in play because of the lands. If you don't know what it does, is it enters the battlefield untapped if I reveal an island or plains. Otherwise, it comes into play tapped. Yeah, plains or an island card. This is a plains and an island card. So you've got Prairie Stream. You can put the Port Town in play.
It's like Manitoba.
Huh?
It's Manitoba.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this? Oh, yeah, okay. If anyone's from Canada or from the prairie, the middle of Canada, yeah, this sort of looks like Manitoba. Honestly, I didn't even realize that. I just learned something myself. This deck is better than I thought it was. So Prairie Stream is the awkward card. This thing is annoying because if we have a hand full of because you need to have 2 or more basic lands in play. If you have 1 basic and handful of Port Towns and Prairie Streams, this thing's coming into play tapped. And there might be some room for this thing to be replaced with the Cycle land, the blue-white Cycle land. I don't know. I'm going to have to try it out at some point. Because we've got Topplegeist here. It's a 1/1 flyer, and basically I only have it in the deck so that when it comes into the battlefield, I can tap a creature my opponent controls, which is more than enough that I need. Most importantly, it's a 1-drop. It allows me to put more creatures on the board, and over the course of 5 turns, usually gets in 5 damage, which is worth it. My older versions of Spirits, the curve was a little bit more heavy on like 3 drops, and I just wanted to shave and Always Watching because it wasn't really worth having more than drawing more than 1 during the course of the game. And Bygone Bishop was by far probably the weakest card in the entire deck, so I replaced them with some Topplegeists. And if we could, like, if we get Metallic Mimic in the graveyard, which is an artifact and a creature, if we get an instant like Unsummon into the graveyard, and then let's say we had the Cycle land put in the graveyard, then we could activate Topplegeist's Delirium effect, which is at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep. If we have Delirium, tap target creature that player controls. So every single turn we get to tap something that they have. That is fantastic. So why is this Merfolk in Spirit? Well, because we're playing with Curse Catcher, the Spirit version of Curse Catcher, except this guy is busted. He flies, which basically is Island Walk in our deck. Flies, and whenever we play a Spirit, he gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And you sack him, and they have to count, and it counters an instant or sorcery equal to, unless they can pay X, where X is its power. Which can be bigger. I mean, like, they might leave 1 mana up for Mausoleum Wanderer, but then you just flash in any one of the spirits, make Mausoleum Wanderer bigger, and you just counter their spell. This happens very often against Dusk and Dawn versus Yahini's Expertise, or even when a Torrential Gearhulk hits the battlefield and they want to play one of their spells for free. They held up 1 mana for the Wanderer, but I just flash something in and counter it anyway. So Unsummon is fantastic. It's everything that I wanted for this deck. It allows me to do something on the draw against decks that are trying to get ahead on turn 2, like when they play Long Tusk Cub or any 2-mana spell, basically. I just have to bounce that thing back, slow the game down to a point where we can get our 3 drops in play and we can take over. Not to mention it like saves all our creatures. I mean, it's the Vapor Snag of the deck. There are definitely situations where I just need to bounce. I'll have a few Nebelgest Heralds on the battlefield. I just bounce any creature and then replay it at flash speed or whatever speed and tap multiple things down, because depending on how many Nebelgest Heralds I have, I get to tap that many creatures down. So, fantastic card.
Why is he getting sucked up? He's evil.
Do you know what? Let's replace this with the real one. Do I have the new Unsummon? Like, what's going on here?
He shouldn't be going up.
I do have the new Unsummon. Let's get rid of the old one. This is ugly as hell. I don't want this one. There we go. We got the new Unsummon. Beautiful. I've been drafting enough Hour of Devastation to have like a billion Unsummons. So Metallic Mimic is basically our Lord of Atlantis. Gives our creatures +1/+1 when they enter the battlefield. We're going to name Spirit, of course. Metallic Mimic is like a weird card. It's not ideal because usually it's on the ground. It's not very good at attacking because it just gets brickwalled by everything. There's like tons of ground creatures in the format. But on the other hand, you could play it, try to get at least one creature in play with a +1/+1 counter on turn 3, and then use him to just like block and trade with something. Still, it's not ideal, but it gives us game against, for example, any Whirler Virtuoso deck, but I also think it gives us a lot of game against the Blue-White Monument deck. It's a big deal if Bygone Bishop is a 3/4 creature. And remember, it's not so easy to just Dusk and Dawn because of Mausoleum Wanderer. Oketra's Monument does not make Dusk and Dawn cheaper. Oketra's Monument just makes the creatures cheaper, so they have to pay the full 4 for Dusk, and the game may not go long enough for them to do that. Our deck is still pretty fast, so I think Metallic Mimic is... and also, by the way, we have Selfless Spirit, so who cares about Dusk and Dawn? The Dusk part sucks. So Metallic Mimic gives us a big edge in that matchup. Making our spirits bigger than they can block is a big deal. And then, yeah, that's Metallic Mimic. Yeah, and Whirler Virtuoso tokens, hate them. Absolutely hate them. So yeah, this helps us get around that. Selfless Spirit, this is great against everything except Hour of Devastation. I mean, it's great against Dusk and Dawn. It's really good for... we can have just like 3 random creatures out, block, sack, Selfless Spirit, buys us a lot of time, or we can also trade up against a lot of creatures. A lot of neat stuff with Selfless Spirit. You can play Selfless Spirit first before you play any of your more high impact spells, like Spell Queller, for example. Gives protection to it, so we can counter a spell. It gets exiled into Spell Queller, and then it'll have protection through Selfless Spirit. So Selfless Spirit, just a fantastic, amazing card. All around great, and fortunately there isn't a lot of Hour of Devastation running around in the format, or at least from what I've seen. I've seen it, but it doesn't even really matter, because against Hour of Devastation control decks, we don't have to commit more than 2 creatures to the board. We don't even need to commit more than 1, really. So Rattle Chains is a flash creature that when it enters the battlefield, it will it's like I guess it's a negate for any cards that target our creatures. So when it enters the battlefield, it gives a target spirit hexproof until end of turn. So if you want to unlicensed disintegrate something, well, we're going to give it hexproof. You want to harness lightning something, we're going to give it hexproof. To be honest though, I get this thing in play as soon as possible, usually ignoring the hexproof part, because giving all our creatures flash is a huge deal. Being able to play Bygone Bishop at flash speed helps a lot. Being able to play stuff like Selfless Spirit at flash speed helps a lot, because that also counters like a bunch of spells. Playing Topplegeist against certain decks helps a lot, because you flash him in at flash speed, tap something down during combat, and it just ruins someone's day. It's just like, oh my god, I thought I had it all figured out, but then they tap my stuff down. And even the same thing with Mausoleum Wanderer. It's basically turns Mausoleum Wanderer into a Force Spike, or even bigger, because you can play Wanderer into another creature. It doesn't get Metallic Mimic at flash speed, which sucks, but, you know, what can you do? Rattle Chains is an amazing creature. Bygone Bishop, probably the worst creature in the deck. It's the most clunky. At 3 mana, it doesn't have flash, and also the deck is clunky enough that it's very hard to crack the clues, even when I make them. I don't make that many clues anymore because I don't think it's that big part of the deck. The deck, when I first made it, it was all about the clues. It was about Thraben Inspector and Bygone Bishop making as many clues as possible. But then I realized I couldn't crack these clues. I would just win or lose with 8 clues on the board, and it didn't matter. And then I realized, well, I'm just winning my games from tempoing out my opponent. If the game goes super, super long, it was really, really bad for me. So right now I'm just trying to tempo out my opponent. The creature is still good. It still gets value, and it's in the deck because it's a 2/3 flyer. It's not so vulnerable to Whirler Virtuoso or any Thopter tokens in general. It's got a big enough body that it can compete with Blue-White Monument decks, especially if I have Always Watching or Metallic Mimic on the board. Yeah, and it flies, and that's all that's really important. So Always Watching is like another Lord effect, and it's really important that our creatures get +1/+1 and Vigilance. Being able to attack with Vigilance means we attack them, and we can make the appropriate blocks, especially with Selfless Spirit, so like we can block with everything. Sack Selfless Spirit and buy us a turn to keep attacking while still being able to block. This helps win a lot of races. But also, yeah, I used to have 4, I'm going to go down to 3. Could even go down to 2 probably. It's a great card in the deck, but you definitely don't want to draw multiples of it. 1 is more than enough. Nebulgust Herald probably is one of the best cards in the deck. It's what makes, I think, this deck a deck at all, because you compete with all the mid-range decks by tapping down their creatures during combat. So you tap the things down, they don't get infinite attack, and even though we're chipping away with them for like 3 damage, but then it turns into 5 damage, and so long as we keep flashing in creatures during combat, or even at upkeep, because we can tap down some mana dorks at upkeep. But so long as we keep tapping stuff down with like Rattle Chains, or if Rattle Chains is already on the battlefield, anything that enters the battlefield will trigger Nebulgast Herald. We keep tapping the stuff down, they don't get in enough damage, and we win the race. And then of course there's Spell Queller. 3 mana counterspell, how can you hate this guy? Be very careful about how you play it against the control decks though. If they play Torrential Gear Hulk and say flashback, I don't know, anything, if you Spell Queller it, it's going to get exiled under Spell Queller and not exiled from the game. It's not that same type of flashback where it just gets exiled permanently, like with Snapcaster Mage. This thing will get put under Spell Queller, and then if Spell Queller dies, they're going to get the spell back. So like, whatever. A lot of things are terrible. Even Gainsay. I once Spell Quellered something with Gainsay, and I tried to play like Nebulgast Herald, and they blew up my Spell Queller, got the Gainsay back, countered my Nebulgast Herald. Oh, it sucked. So going on to the sideboard, I used to have, what's it called? Blessed Alliance. That was too situational, so I've replaced it with Declaration in Stone, but I'm not even sure if this is even what I need, because Unsummon is basically what I need for all my creature matchups. And if I'm bringing in Declaration in Stone, then that means I have like 8 removal spells, and that's probably too many. That's probably more than what I need it to be. Yeah, I don't know about Declaration in Stone. I just know that Blessed Alliance just wasn't cutting it. It was fine so long as people were playing into it, but if people don't attack when I have 2 mana up, then they just don't. Then it sucks. It just feels terrible, and it's just way too situational, or they attack with 2 creatures and then sack the one that doesn't matter. So Declaration in Stone, if I'm willing to tap out for Blessed Alliance, I might as well do it on my main phase with Declaration in Stone. Negate and Disallow, just great for the combo and control matchups. We're siding out things like Always Watching, some Unsummons and Metallic Mimics, and just bringing in all the counter magic. And we are bringing in Dusk and Dawn. This is definitely something that I haven't played too much with, but I'm hoping is going to be amazing against the control decks. It's basically a similar card to what the Blue-White Monument decks play. I mean, it's what the Blue-White Monument decks play, but I think it's going to be very good against control. I mean, all the control decks basically play win conditions that have the power 3 or more. And I'm already taking out Metallic Mimic against control, because they get blocked, just stonewalled by Wandering Fumarole. It just can't get in any damage, so I don't want it. And it forces me to commit more creatures to the board. And I'm also taking out Always Watching because it's not a threat and it's not necessary to have Vigilance against a control deck. So this thing is just a one-sided, it's a Plague Wind effect. I'm gonna blow up all your Gear Hulks, gonna blow up your Thing in the Ices, blow up your Glory Bringers, everything. All your win conditions, goodbye. Doesn't kill Planeswalkers, but hopefully the creatures will kill the Planeswalkers. And of course, Dawn is much appreciated against control decks. Let's just bring all our creatures back to our hand. Return all creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to their hand. That's everything.
What if it brings like 9 creatures to your hand?
Then it's going to bring 9 creatures. I'm going to have to discard some at my
Okay.
End step.
Figured
Hey,
out.
if we're discarding creatures at our end step, we're doing something right. We're doing something right. So this is the deck. All the competitive leagues, I could definitely say I played a little sloppy, and I need to play very, very clearly. So hopefully I'm going to be very focused. You get an idea of what I've been working on for the Pro Tour, and hopefully it's good enough that I can compete there. So let's go jump in once again into a competitive league.
All these ghosts have changed.
Chains, chains, chains. Wow, I didn't notice this. Pins,
I mean, what
chains. Interesting. It's just like
what is this? That's
the Muppets Christmas.
yeah, the Scrooge or whatever.
Yeah. Winning the die roll, always appreciated. We have a decent curve here. We're going to keep this. It also looks like turn 1 is not going to be all that relevant unless our opponent is playing like mono red aggro or something like that. Sorry, the standard is super diverse right now, so like anything can happen.
Well,
see, this is why I think this could be a cycling land, because this thing comes into play like taps so often. Sheltered Thicket has been revealed to me.
within reason, anything could happen. I'm not going to start playing modern.
We'll play an island, so we have a choice: Rattle Chains or Selfless Spirits. Might as well get the Selfless. All these things have flash speed already, so let's just get this thing on the. Let's get this thing going.
What is he playing?
I don't know what he's playing. He showed me a red and green card. Sanctum of Ugin. Okay, so it looks like the green-red ramp deck. Add 1 mana to your mana pool. So this is something we can Nebelgast Herald down and keep tapping it down every single turn, depriving our opponent of mana. And that's the beauty of this deck. Oh, look at that Topplegeist. We could Topplegeist and Rattle Chains at the same time, but we're going to take it slowly. No rush, no rush, no rush.
Eye of Ugin is banned, right?
Oh, we could also unsummon this thing. Eye of Ugin?
Yeah. What
that is very, very far away from standard legal. It's like, what else could we do here? So we can Nebelgast her. I'm not actually familiar with the deck. Do you know what? I'm not familiar with the deck, so let's go look it up.
No,
What is the point of the internet? We got the internet. I just want to know if they have Sweltering Suns in their deck. Maybe not, because they're playing with mana dorks. Red, green, ramp, standard. So if they have Sweltering Suns in the main, I will not. So they got Dragonlord Atarka, Sylvan Advocate. This guy's playing a different version. They have Kozilek's Return. Well, actually, who cares? I've got the Selfless Spirit here. That's more than enough. Insurance. So I'm going to just put a stop at my opponent's upkeep, and we're going to start tapping things down. It's going to cycle stuff, destroy target artifact. So that hits our Metallic Mimic. Corrupted Graphstone. When that enters the battlefield, tap, choose a color of a card in your graveyard, add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool. So our opponent is ramping well.
Into what?
Ugin. Sorry, like they can ramp into Ugin, they can ramp into Worldbreaker, which has a pretty sick trigger. More Topplegeists. But, you know, like, once again, we're in the air, and we are doing pretty good on the tempoing out plan. Like, we can next turn Rattle Chains this thing, and then from there on out, we can, like, Topplegeist. We can maybe even unsummon this. We can, like, even if they play Worldbreaker, we can unsummon the Worldbreaker.
They have creatures that can fly. Do they have creatures that go underground, like Diglett?
Not quite. Well, I mean, there's Mountain Walk. That's basically the closest thing we have. So I'm going to play the Rattle Chains here. Again, at upkeep. To keep our opponent off of as much mana as possible. I'll Neville guessed Herald, I guess the hexproof. There's other ways of playing this. You could, you know, I mean, you could hold up Spell Queller, but the thing is, there could be a point where their spells are too large for me to Spell Quell. Well, I was not expecting that in their Mana Dork deck, to be honest. I was not expecting that at all. We can unsummon something, which is the point of unsummon. But what do we get? I guess Selfless Spirit feels a bit useless. Rattle Chains feels useful, especially with the Topplegeists in our deck. So this is not going to be nearly as bad as it looks. It's going to be a 3 for 2, because they're going to hit 2 of their cards, and 3 of ours, because we're going to have to dump the unsummon. I guess we'll take Rattle Chains back. It's not... Oops. Undo. Or do I want Selfless Spirit? No, I'm going to bring the Rattle Chains. I don't know what to expect from this deck. The Hour of Devastation. Prairie Stream gets come to play untapped, and we're going to pass the turn. Actually, we could play a Topplegeist and see what they do. If they, like, for example, if they do nothing, then we're just going to Rattle Chains into... Maybe just Rattle Chains, then wait. Okay, so Thought Not Seer, that's fine. We can Spell Quell that. Maybe some red... Like, it's really weird to have Hour of Devastation in your creature deck. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
So you suck that card up?
I suck the card up. Card is sucked
permanently until it dies, or?
Yeah, until it dies.
Okay, good.
Until it dies.
It's like Flicker Wisp, and it does that for a turn.
So I'm going to keep the Rattle Chains in my hand until necessary. Our opponent is getting really close to, like, World Breaker mana, which is unfortunate. Once World Breaker hits, Sanctum of Ugin will crack. Although they're really far away from casting, say, Ulamog, so that's some good news. But yeah, they do have World Breaker mana here. So our opponent has a stop at our upkeep. We have Rattle Chains in our hand, so we're just gonna sit on that for forever. Attack for 3. And if they ever play, for example, another Hour of Devastation, well, it's going to blow, but we're going to play Rattle Chains followed by a Topplegeist. Okay. Gotcha. This is a good time where I wish I could unsummon this thing. They get Thought Not Seer, and then I just replay 2 things? Yeah. Anyway, so they're going to get this back. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess it's working, but it doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to play the remaining of my creatures out. You're going to find nothing in our hand. Unfortunately, our opponent still has cards in their hand. Don't like it, but we'll live with it. So if they play, for example, Reality Smasher, what's going on here? Glorybringer? Oh, Walking Ballista. Oh yeah, we're in a lot of trouble versus that, that's for sure. We are not beating this card. Well, we can negate one of the counters. But, like, truth be told, we're just gonna die this game.
You could get an unsummon.
It's not enough. And now the Ballista is just gonna kill us for sure. So what exactly is the plan for us? Like, do we counter the mana ramping stuff? Do we... I'm not exactly sure what our plan is here. We're going to look at the sideboard. Looks like Disallow might be just fine against this. Well, Metallic Mimic, you came a little late, but not that it mattered. Looks like we're pretty ruined here. We're going to get hit for another 5. Topplegeist by itself is not very powerful. Chandra, sure, why not? I'm going to play this out because I've never seen this deck. Just like straight up never seen this deck. It might be something like super brand new. It didn't help that we kept drawing lands either. Let's kill the Chandra. Hopefully represents something. I just wanted to get as much information out of this deck as possible. Look, they just showed us Ruminap Ruins. So that's something a little bit more than we knew a few seconds ago. They're playing probably a lot of Chandras. They're adding mana. Gonna Kozilek's return. Oh, just putting another counter on that. Okay, that's fair. And then kill us. It looks like kill us. Okay, so they won. This card looks fine because it kills all their stuff. So this isn't... Okay, this is not a match for Always Watching. It's probably a match for Dusk and Dawn. I'm not sure. Like, maybe it's just better to tempo them out. It doesn't... It also doesn't... Like, Unsummon is also much more for the matchups where we're going to be under the gun by aggressive creature decks. And that may not be where we want to be. Maybe we just want Negate. Although it would be nice to disallow those things. Topplegeist is poopy, but at least it gets us onto the board. So Negate can counter their mana ramping card. It can counter Chandra. It can counter Hour of Devastation. The problem is if we have Disallow... Oh, actually, they are also a... What's it called? Deck, maybe we want Always Watching because of that stupid artifact, Walking Ballista. Always Watching is also in here because of Walking Ballista. It makes our deck a lot less fragile. And unfortunately, like, Walking Ballista doesn't really get killed by Dusk and Dawn. Or Negate. But I don't really want to have, like, Always Watching in a matchup where there's going to be this giant sweeper either. Let's just try this. See what happens. I have to think about it more deeply at another time. I would like to play first. Again. This hand is not ideal, but not something I can throw away.
Mulligan.
No, I'm going to keep it.
No, him.
Oh, him?
He did it the first round.
So we draw a Port Town. That's not bad. The thing about playing Topplegeist right now is I think it will get us very little damage in, whereas later I could, like next turn, I can play Bygone Bishop and then play Topplegeist to get a clue token. So I'm going to save this? Or do I play it anyway? Because next turn I play Bygone Bishop. And then if it survives, I'll play Nebelgast Heralds from there on out. Okay, I'll just play it now. It's just good to get on the board. Not the most ideal card in our deck, but, you know, low enough on the curve that hopefully it helps. So Corrupted Graphstone enters the battlefield. Oh, there we go. Got Spell Queller on potentially in play. So they've got their colorless mana available with the Heshep Oasis. I'm going to get the Bygone Bishop on the board. If they play, for example, Thought Not Seer, and they take Spell Queller, that's fine. I don't really want to Spell Queller, Thought Not Seer, and then have them Hour of Devastation them away. That feels pretty bad. Okay, a Braid hits our creature. Walking Ballista for 1. That feels very bad. We do have Selfless Spirit now. This deck might be difficult to beat with Walking Ballista and Hour of Devastation, and it's like a bunch of creatures too. I'm gonna have to play like Spell Queller with like very little value. Sure.
He's ramping.
Yeah, he is. So if I play Nebelgest Herald, I sort of force them to just burn one of the counters, which also means they have to spend another 4 mana to do that next turn. And I have a lot of creatures in my hand, so I guess I'm going to do that. My board presence just sucks, though, which is my problem. Well, maybe this can help get the counter out, the last counter off this Ballista, the Mimic. Let's pass the turn. I'm going to try to aim for some situation where we play like, I don't know, Selfless Spirit into Metallic Mimic. Okay, so let's Spell Queller block this stupid thing. Okay. So Ballista is still going to kill it. Two Selfless Spirits. Well, we have to burn one now. So I'm playing him in this order so that if he tries to hit the Mimic, I can sack Selfless Spirit on it. So he could tap 4 mana, put a counter on it. I guess it doesn't matter if we're going to see it like a Reality Smasher or something here. Or a World Breaker, that's fine. Well, it's not fine. I'm not happy about this at all. Oh, and World Breaker destroys artifacts. Also very, very ugly. Oh, and this thing has reach. Unfortunately, on Magic the Gathering Online, it's how can I put it? It's I can read Devoid and all this other stuff, and then reach is at the bottom. That's fine. We'll just play the Nebelgest Herald during the attack step, and we will tap the World Breaker, which oddly enough gets out of range of Hour of Devastation. Okay, we got, at least we dealt with, okay, what did they get though with their Ugin? Puts ability from Sanctum of Ugin onto the stack. Reveals Walking Ballista. Search your library for a colorless creature card, reveal and put into your hand. Oh, so they have another Walking Ballista. Well, that sucks.
He had everything.
Well, not really. But my plan could probably be better. I should probably keep... I've never... Well, like, when you play against a deck for the very first time, it is very, very hard to play against it properly. This is also a very fragile deck, so... Blue-White Spirits in Standard is very similar to how it is in Modern. You're not allowed to make a whole lot of mistakes. And when you play against a deck for the very first time, you may not know what the correct plan is in the beginning. I most certainly don't. And I forgot to play my Port Town last turn, which means I can't cast this Bygone Bishop. Not that it, like, super matters. We are incredibly dead. Our opponent has, like, a bunch of these deserts out to pump up their creatures and then burn our face down. Wish I played a little bit more cleanly when I was behind, though. For the sake of just learning about the matchup, because I mean, I didn't see that. I've never seen this thing myself. I want to know what the hell's going on. What else do you have in your deck? So you're playing both the green and the red desert. How can I take advantage of any of this stuff? You play with Tormenting Voice. You can tutor for Walking Ballista, playing more of these Corrupted Grafstones. Like, here's the weird... I don't understand these things. I mean, I guess it's fine. You don't have to play Hour of Devastation. You do it when, like, you have no other choice. But still, it seems weird. 2 Selfless Spirits, not bad. Let's make some clue tokens.
In the library with the candlestick.
Don't have Unsummon in the deck anymore. We're super behind. We didn't have a nice aggro start. Certain if I had to do this all over again, we'd just put the disallows in our deck. Get rid of, I'm not sure, something. Maybe Declaration in Stone is better against this than I would think. But I don't know. I also shouldn't talk like this game is over. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, he could die of a heart attack.
He could die of a heart attack. He could disconnect.
Disconnect permanently.
We could pull a miracle out of our deck. I think we have Dusk and Dawn in our deck.
Miracles is bad.
We could Dusk. Oh, we can Dawn this stupid World Breaker away, Dusk a bunch of stuff back, and then try to outgrind our opponent from here. This is possible. We're gonna face 6 damage at the moment. There's actually a lot of problems with this situation because of the... I guess attacking was not so good. We are under a lot of pressure because of this thing. They can sacrifice any desert, which, if you guys don't know, this is like 4 mana, tap this, sack a desert, which also includes this desert, deal 2 damage to an opponent. So I have to do at least a chump block here to keep my head above the desert nonsense. Well, we dealt with the Ballista. Sort of tells me he has another one. Giant Spider. Ishkana, the Graph Widow. Has Reach, Delirium. When it enters the battlefield, if there are 4 more card types, you put a bunch of... It's like a Master of Waves. Target opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control. So we're going to die very quickly to this.
All hail Queen Spider.
We still have a chance if we can Dusk and Dawn, which is now we're drawing dead. So these things are useless at this point. All right, we concede. So that was our matchup against what I can only imagine is some sort of red-green ramp Eldrazi deck. I don't know. It seems to be a blend of a few things that I've heard of, but you know, standard is wide open, and I cannot plot a correct plan against this deck from what I saw. You know, that's why you always want to have you want to do as much of your sideboard preparation before a big tournament. Look up the deck lists, see what cards are in the deck, see what cards are in their sideboard. That is the best time for you to prepare for any sort of deck, is at home and create your own sideboard guide. I got just a glimpse of this deck in game 1, and I probably did not even have the best plan against them because I don't know all the cards in their deck and all the ways that they can beat me. It's because it sort of looks like if I drew negate at any point in this game, it was completely dead. It was like a very wrong choice to have. I should have probably more disallows, or maybe not even the disallows. Probably I should just keep the always watching and maybe just play around Hour of Devastation better. When they play more creatures like this guy, then I'll just play more creatures and force you to play Hour of Devastation, kill your own stuff at the same time. Yeah, if you're gonna play Hour of Devastation, I'm gonna make sure you blow up your own stuff. So that was round 1 with Blue-White Spirits. We're gonna thank our sponsor, themanabase.com, and we're also gonna thank all our patrons supporting me on Patreon. This has been Nikachu and his brother, trying to support Merfolk in spirit in Standard.